Hello people, we should be live, and today we are starting a new art challenge. This art challenge is going to be based on digital plein air painting, which means that every painting is going to have a reference. And I'm just gonna quickly read the guidelines for this art challenge, and this art challenge is going to have tons of different educational content here on the live streams, and some will also be live lesson sessions on the membership. And of course, when you want to show your work, hop onto the membership, adding a little bit more lights here. Hop onto the membership and post your art on our Discord server where everybody is. We are just gonna get started. I'm gonna read the rules or guidelines because I think whatever makes you make more art is what is working. So you should never just follow the rules when they don't work for you. And what I mean by that is that even if you're doing an art challenge, I recommend always paying attention to what actually motivates you. So if you feel like an art challenge is kind of burning you out or lessening your motivation into what you're doing, then just don't do it. It's that simple. And here, one of the key things that I want to highlight is that there is no quota limitation for this. So if you feel like doing one painting every week, that's fine as well. If you feel like doing 5 paintings a week, that's fine. But in that case, I want to say that pay attention to like your own enthusiasm for your art and don't push it over. Like you can still be on a progressive curve and keep doing art assignments and challenges that improve your artistic skills without consuming that stamina. So there should be always a good balance on like what brings you joy and also what progresses your artistic skills. So use reference for all art in this challenge. You can use photos you have taken, mapcrunch.com street views, or any kind of Google Maps street views, or free reference share images on our Discord. So our Discord has a free reference share, and you can use those freely. I have specifically said in our free reference share channel that if you use any of those images, you are already like given consent to use those images for art. Of course, you can't like feed them to AI algorithms or anything evil like that, but I want that channel to be like as frictionless as possible. But of course, in every other art channel, like all the artwork posted, like they belong strictly to the artists who have made them. So be kind and be respectful. Or you can go out and take your own reference photos. Second, do not copy the reference. You can freely move elements around, change colors or lights to design your painting. What is interesting to you in that place? Highlight that. So if you have a reference, you don't have to recreate the whole thing. If the photograph already exists, try to find an interesting way to see that place. Have a formation in the landscape or a tree or the way that light interacts with the scene. Pick one element that you want to highlight and focus on that. We already have the photograph. We don't need more pictures here. What we need is like your unique take. So you can change the style, you can move around landscape elements just to bring that point across. So this isn't about recreating a photograph, this is about using reference, and there's a difference between reference and just copying an image. So I'm using reference on this channel always in the old-fashioned sense of reference. I never mean by using reference that you have an image and then you just recreate that same image. That is not what I mean by using a reference. Reference is simplifying all other elements that are not important to your story, or highlighting the element, or using the sense of place from the small details that you can see. It never means just lifting that entire image and just recreating it. Especially in digital art, what's the point of that? We already have the photograph, so try to add something of your own. Try to be the reason why people would look at that place or location through your eyes. And it's more important to get started than to find the perfect reference. Let's level up our design and landscape skills at the same time. So let's go and explore somewhere interesting. I'm gonna shut down this application capture for a few seconds. That's the wrong application capture. Maybe it's this. Yes. Just give me a second. I'm gonna send myself this one picture. Because I thought it's important to show you what I'm painting. So I've been using MapCrunch for this. I will not be having it on this screen. I'm gonna put this back on now. So this is from mapcrunch.com, and I'm gonna copy paste the location. You can use a share function on this web page, and I use that, and it gives me this link, and it should give you that street view place exactly. I just put it in the chat. But this is not a rule in any way, but I recommend not having this picture on the same screen as where you are painting. So this is the location that I'm painting, but I will not be recreating that image. I will be doing my own painting. So that's what we're going to start doing right now. And if you have your own location, you can browse MapCrunch by like just pressing the play button, and it will save the previous locations. I know that there is this like one quality in doing this kind of locations scouting, especially digitally, when it's so easy to just like fly around different places, that you really don't want to get stuck in that mode, because you can easily spend the entire day just browsing through different locations and not actually ever starting. So don't expect to find some kind of like perfect landscape for your piece. That's not the point of this at all. What you want to be doing is that you want to find something that is just good enough. Something that is inspiring, something that makes you feel like, okay, this is not the most impressive image possible, but I can make it more interesting because I see something in it. You want to see something that is more than what your reference is giving you. And then paint that thing. Then you can actually finish the painting feeling like you have given us something more than just what the location was. You have come out from that experience and from that place with a piece of art, not just a picture. And this is a great way to hone your design skills. So if you want to be a concept artist or do some kind of visual design job where you're supposed to create locations and environments that are interesting, having that kind of grounded real world starting point is a great way to ground your work into something real and then give it that extra spin, like show us what you see. Moi, Jack. This is oh, actually I can see that the entire screen is not full screen, so I'm just gonna scale that a little bit and get this bigger. Usually when I start painting, I start from a much smaller scale because that way I get a lot more coverage done and I get a better idea of what the whole composition is. But for these live streams, I often have the entire canvas quite big so you guys can see what I'm doing. But if I was just painting by myself, I honestly would have the painting like very, very small on the screen. Especially here in the beginning, you want to be making big decisions, avoid all of the irrelevant small stuff. Just designing mountains that could be similar, inspired by the same place, but also I'm paying attention to just like how visually interesting and dramatic those shapes are. I think the problem that I could easily run into in this landscape is that the mountains look kind of similar. So I could decide that the right side is lower because I think that could enhance the perspective a little bit more and just give that sense of scale. Am I doing this on its own layer? Yes. So on the membership, I recently published complete step-by-step tutorial for doing landscape painting with a mountain, and there I covered the basics of how to create realistic mountains. And here I'm using those same kind of guidelines for this entire thing. So I am thinking about what the wrong shape of a mountain is and trying to avoid that at all times. Another way to start doing that is like you do the wrong shape first and then you consciously fix those mistakes. I think that's the best way to start doing landscapes when you're new to painting mountains and you're unaware of those mistakes that you are doing, because everybody does them. I do them all the time. I'm just aware of them and I'm quicker at finding what to fix because I know what to look for. But everybody does them. Like, there's nothing wrong with you if you do Toblerone mountains. That's completely normal. I like those sort of like gloomy brown colors, but I want there to be like very vibrant green hue in the middle of this field as well. I'm not going to be using this palette anymore. Let's just switch to... Well, I could literally pick anything here. Let's do Italian hill. No. Tropical island. Yes, this has more interesting greens. I'm gonna do that. Just putting in some really big blobs, trying to define the space. Hello, Lala and Elin. How are you? I forgot to wear my medal. That was the one thing that I felt like I wanted to do for this. Damn it. I am going to do it in a future live stream or video. Who knows? I'm not recording this, by the way. This is just for this kickoff event. But the medal is really cool. So the previous time that when I ran a marathon, it was 2012, and I thought that since so much time has passed, I hope that they haven't made the medal smaller or tiny or something. But it was the exact same chunkiness, which to me is really the most important thing. Because that's what I was thinking about when I was finishing the marathon and I was completely out of breath and energy and just dying on the course. That, like, remember why you're doing this. You're doing this for the snacks, the bling, and attention. And so that just gave me the power that I needed to finish. I'm kidding, like, nobody cares that I run because I'm so slow at it. But I was very happy with, like, just finishing. Because ever since 2012, I wanted to do it every year, but every year I got like injuries or something. Something was always holding me back from doing it again. And this year, I just felt really grateful that I was able to run it. And I know that I'm also lucky because even at the best of time, doing such a long distance like running plan, even at your best shape and with the best of luck, you are still kind of like threading the needle between sports injury and improving your running fitness at the end when the runs get super long. It's never like guaranteed that even if you do all the training that you will be able to like do the event at all, because it's so likely that something causes a sports injury. I did eat an insanely good waffle right after, and not by luck either. That was a pre-planned waffle. I knew exactly where I would get it and how I would get there after the run. So I was thinking about it the entire time. It was a pecan uh, nut waffle. This is a pretty overly dramatic sky gradient, but I like those. So I'm gonna keep it. Duplicating it to see if I can make it a little bit stronger. And it seems to be possible. Okay, this is basically my line art layer now. I think I'm gonna get rid of it because clearly the drawing is done. Anybody who is into drawing is just gonna be horrified by this, but You do you. I'll do myself. I'm using the ground plane to create this kind of patchy texture, which is maybe adding like a little bit of sense of perspective in here, and then just merging them all together, flipping it horizontally, and just creating a hue variation that is a slightly browner and less saturated. And then masking it away. And with white brush, just giving some dabs here. This give the entire landscape a little bit of that hue variety, since it's kind of undefined what it is that is in there. I'm just creating a texture at this face still, but later I will definitely add overall gradients that will be more important than this texture. Sometimes for improving your painting and design skills, I recommend taking out like some element that you are gonna paint or draw that has a high texture element to it. And a sneaker is actually a super good subject for this, because a sneaker has all those interesting details, like very contrasty, geometric, organic details all around it. And when you're doing it, you can't lose the form while you're doing that. So all of that detail should be like a secondary element in the end result. So even though you are paying attention to all of the details, you need to kind of average it out in your art to make it readable and somehow comprehensible. But that is a really cool art challenge. In nature, same applies to anything that is like highly detailed and rich, like any tree that has very loose or big foliage, also a great candidate for this same thing. Basically scribbling away some bits of that what I just painted with a small eraser. This is kind of cheap, but I'm just gonna recycle some of this texture for the other mountain, because I'm in a hurry and I need to get stuff done. I'm sorry that I'm not at all sorry. I think the one thing that I have learned from concept art is that there is no technique too cheap. As long as it's not stealing someone else's work or anything copyrighted, like whatever gets me to the end result when I have an idea to tell, I kind of love that when I am able to find shortcuts. That when I was a bad concept artist, I didn't know any of these shortcuts, and I was trying to avoid them because I thought that there's a right way to make art. But the longer I was able to hold on to my job, the more I realized that actually like speed and communication skills are the most important thing to communicate and sell your work. And if you can't do that, then you're out of job basically. So you learn to appreciate like being able to do the work, like being able to communicate the ideas more than just like caring about how it's done, because all of the art is just going to be never seen again. Like it's the idea that gets sold, it's the idea that goes into production. The painting itself, nobody's gonna see it later. super excited to see 200,000 K subscribers hit the channel. So I don't know if it's gonna be soon. It's gonna take some time still, so like don't hold your breath. Share my videos if you want to help. Whoop. Sorry, I think I accidentally shut the music off for a while. Now it should be on. I can't imagine you ever being bad at art. Oh my god. I've been so bad at art for so long, but you have to remember that I'm super old, so I've had a lot of time to be bad at art before I had enough art teachers and enough art courses that I had gone through to stop sucking as much. And sadly, I have to say that it took even longer time to find ways to make art that I enjoy. I've been a working professional for longer than I have been okay with what kind of art I'm making and actually enjoying it. Recently, I was in this game company party that I worked for a long time, and they have been sending me these invites. They send these invites to everybody who has worked there whenever they have like a big company party, even the previous employees, to invite them over and celebrate their big milestones. This was a 30th year anniversary for the company. So I was invited again, and I have always ignored these invites because I just thought that I don't want to be put into a situation where I am faced with those people again, because like it was a bad situation in my life. Honestly, I had a really bad burnout when I left, and it's just I had a really hard time getting myself into a functional human being again, and just being associated, like that whole time period is associated with those people. So I was afraid that like meeting them again would be somehow triggering to me. So for that reason, I haven't gone to any of those parties. But for whatever reason this year, I thought that like, okay, I'm gonna try and see how it is. And if I don't like it, I'm just gonna go home. Like, I'm fairly sure that I will be able to make that decision for myself. And I knew that I wouldn't be drinking either. So, because I knew that in 2 nights I would be running the Helsinki City Marathon. So I knew that like even a little bit of beer messes up your sleep rhythm badly, and I didn't want to kind of like throw away all this training at the last minute because of something stupid like that. So I knew that like I would be well within my faculties to be able to tell like if the situation is not good for me and I need to leave. And I went there, and at that point I've been away for like 8 years now from that one company and from those people, which is a pretty long time. And they had rented out this like huge space for it because there was a music number and everything for the main stage. And that whole space was covered from wall to wall and on the supporting beams and on all the surfaces. It was just like covered in my art, like all of my art from the time when I was working there. Even art that I had made for them when I did the test art when I was applying for that workplace. Even those paintings, the very first ones, back when I was still like in oil painting school, those were also there. I don't know, it's just it meant a lot to me to see that, because one of the things that got me so frustrated with game industry is all of this art that I was making, and none of it gets seen by people, and it just seems so wrong. And when I saw all of that stuff on display, it was nice. It wasn't triggering, it was just nice. It didn't make me want to go back, but I felt appreciated. Also, there were a lot of art from projects where I had done like visual designs for. Like some projects were cancelled and other projects like changed looks completely. And there was this like one project that like changed visual direction like quite dramatically when I stopped working on it. And there on display was like art prior to that change, and it didn't sell that well. And then one person came to me, I think it was from the PR team, that asked me what do I feel about about my art from that time. Like, do you hate all of your old stuff? Because that's usually how artists are like. And generally, like, there was like quite a lot of critique in that company. It's part of the whole company culture. But I just said like right away, like, are you kidding me? This looks awesome. Like, I would wishlist this game. Like, if I saw a screenshot like this right now, there's zero part of me that regrets any of the decisions. And he agreed with me that like, yes, like my vision for that game was way better what they ended up with without me. And like, I really feel that way. I don't look back at those pieces and think that like, oh, I should have done it like this or that. But now, when I have the distance of time, like, I can like honestly look back at my old work and think that like, yeah, I was good at that. And I don't feel ashamed of that. I don't think I'm flexing. Of course, I've also done like tons and tons of bad paintings before getting to that point. But I think I can now evaluate, like, what is a good concept painting. Not just because of my work there, but like while I was working as a concept artist, I also started teaching concept art in schools. So sometimes I would work 4-day week and use the remaining days to go to school to teach kids design skills in concept art for video games. And that's also one thing where I was initially like really bad. I mean, just because you're good at painting doesn't mean that you're good at teaching. Those are two completely separate skills. Like creating a teaching plan so that a group of students can follow along and get better at that skill. It's not that easy, and I was pretty bad at it. But over time, I got better, like slowly but surely. I got better at that as well. So I think the main skill that I am now benefiting from that is that I'm just better at reading images. Like, not any specific image, but like all images. Because I have done the whole process of like breaking down the composition to its main elements, and that's how I have created this checklist method. And it has helped me teach a lot better. Because if you think about it, usually when artists without any education in becoming a teacher start teaching art, they usually start teaching their way of painting, which like is just ethically wrong, in my opinion. Like, and probably like the opinion of like all teachers, art teachers in Finland. Like, it's just wrong and selfish, and you shouldn't do it. So the checklist method I invented because it helps me kind of break down the main elements of composition so that I can always talk about art based like from more objective place. Of course, I have my likes and dislikes. I will always like a painting that is an island or has bears in it. Of course I am. But with the checklist method, even those paintings I can break down and see that like, okay, are these composition elements working or not? And so on. And so when I look back at my old paintings, that's how I see them as well. Like, it's so long time ago that it doesn't feel like they were even done by me anymore. But I can still see that, like, okay, the composition elements are working, therefore, this is a good painting. And I think having that kind of system to evaluate your own paintings is much better than just thinking about like from emotions based point of view, because there's so much emotional baggage that you bring just as a human being, and that's completely normal, into your painting, that it might sometimes feel like you're not like even capable of evaluating your work. But that's where you need to leave out all the kind of like, I like this or this makes me feel that. Just thinking about what the painting is saying and where the composition is pointing you towards. And based on that, is that thing that you are trying to say, does it get said? Like, do you get understood by the painting? I think with those ingredients, you can come up with a system where it's more facts-based evaluation, not just this didn't turn out the way that I wanted, therefore it's bad. Like, I think you need to get way more detailed than that. Mr. Enoch is saying, I started doing art when I was like 32 or so, but thanks to my ADHD, I'm improving very fast. Yeah, I think ADHD is kind of like a superpower for creative skills, because what most people don't understand about ADHD is that it's not just attention disorder, it's also enables people to get really super hyper focused as well. And usually for ADHD people, that is creative tasks. When ADHD becomes like this, like super focus that you are so zoned in that it's pretty easy to keep painting for hours and hours. Like, ADHD people feel the flow state much more deeply than others. But harnessing that or creating a life around it so that you can have a creative or sustainable, consistent art practice, I'm not gonna lie, that's way more challenging. Something that I am still definitely working on. And sometimes I find things that work. I mean, I would be interested to hear anybody in the chat to see, like, what is like your creative practice? Like, how do you get yourself off the couch and start painting? For me, the one thing that works is just like scheduling, and I'm pretty good at like just slavishly following a schedule when I have that one set up for me. I think running is one of those good examples where like that schedule isn't even done by me, but I'm very slavish, like even to a fault, at following it, because I want to see like those green check marks in my running plan. I want to finish it feeling like I did all of the runs. That to me is very important, and when I start slipping, I know that it's just like really quickly downhill from there. So that's why it can be a problem. Like for example, if we've been traveling and I have a long run to do, I will just throw my bags once we come through the front door and go out for a run, because I'm so conscious of the fact that like I need to keep all of my running tasks done. Otherwise, I will just backslide into not being able to do the hard runs when they come. But realistically, I know that running program is more than just doing every single run. And if I'm sick, of course, that's a different thing. But for something like a marathon, like there are moments when it's smarter to skip run than do all of them. So definitely my approach is not something that I recommend to everybody. That's why I would be like super interested in hearing how you guys plan your like painting in general. Like, is there a system of like, on those days I paint for this amount of time, or is it just like completely whatever feeling you happen to have on that given day? How are we doing on time? 43 minutes. Okay, then it's starting to look like a painting. I'm not gonna panic. Nico, it's all gonna be fine. Mr. Enoch is saying, honestly, I'm not consistent at all. Every time I see you paint, it inspires me to pick up iPad as well as your art. It's so whimsical. Thank you. I will do my best to be like more online on these public live streams during this art assignment. There will be more art assignment live streams on the membership side, because I don't think the lecture parts would work that well on this public section. But for this, I think this is one of those art challenges where just doing a big volume of work is the best way to get better at like not being too fuzzy about details and finding ways to simplify elements to like their essence. And if you just do like only one painting, that's still better than nothing. I don't want to give people like pressure on like keeping up with some kind of quota. But if you do a lot of paintings, that kind of puts less value on one single painting. And the good thing about that is that you get so much more opportunities to fail, try new things, and you get more opportunities to find things that work for you. And I think the best thing about this is that not a single painting is ever that important. If it's the only painting that you are doing in the entire week, of course it's gonna feel like less motivating when it doesn't work out. But when you're doing 10 paintings in a month, or several in a week, if you happen to have just a bad day and a painting doesn't work out, it's not really that important, is it? Like, it's just one of many. And you can keep working and doing new paintings, and eventually you will either just get lucky, or all of those repeats are adding or building up to a skill that makes those good paintings more likely to happen. Alien Space Cat is saying, I'm primarily a writer, so I use art before a writing session to warm up my creativity. I think that's a great idea. And I've also sometimes done that the opposite way around, and I highly recommend that to somebody. It's just like, do a little bit of creative writing before you start painting. Especially if it's not your kind of main mode of output for your creative outlet, it can reduce that kind of fear that you need to be somehow good at it. If you're not a writer, you don't expect to be writing like good text when you start that. And then you've already gotten the ball rolling. So when it comes time to paint, it's much easier to just accept the fact that in the beginning, it's most likely going to be probably pretty bad. And that's just the way it is. I think that for me is always the hardest part. When I look at any one of my previous paintings, I'm always just like, damn, like I feel scared. that looks amazing. I wish I was that artist. Unfortunately, I am not. I am somebody completely different. I do not have or possess any of those skills that I am seeing in the previously completed work. I just got incredibly lucky, and I somehow seem to always forget that it's a pretty big process and it takes some time before a painting starts looking like anything good, at least. So for me, like seeing any of my old paintings, like even the one that I just completed, I like instantly forget the road that was needed to like take the artwork there. I'm using the round plus brush here, but you could do the exact same stuff with just a round brush. I wanted to use a simple brush for this first live stream in these digital plein air landscape paintings because I think it's a great way to kind of focus on the what matters and stop with the fancy digital art tricks and just focus on painting. I don't know how long you who is listening to me right now have been painting, but every digital artist at some point in their career has their round brush phase when they finally end up realizing like, oh, it really is just about how you use the brush and how you paint, and you can do that with any brush. And usually during that time they go into their round brush phase when it's just like the most simple basic tool that anybody can access, and then you can really see and focus on the direction of the brush strokes, what you are saying with those brush strokes, and building your edges in the right areas. But if you're a beginner that is listening to me, like maybe you just bought one of my brush packs thinking that you're gonna use all 10 of them in the same painting, you might be horrified by this. Most of the brushes that I have on Gumroad, they have been made with the idea that like you can paint the entire painting with just that one brush. I've never intended the brush packs to be like use all of the brushes for one piece. Just for that same reason, so that it's easier to focus on the design aspect of it. And for that reason, you want the brush to be like as versatile as possible. And I can't think of any brush that is more versatile than the default round brush that is already in all of your art applications as the default starting brush. when you're doing this kind of a lens flare effect, you really want to be paying attention to the kind of like hotspot of light that can pull into one color. It's probably really hard to see from this YouTube feed, but when you're painting on your iPad, the iPad screen is so good that you can really tell with your naked eye where the color starts pooling into this one area when there is no more travel towards the lighter spot or difference in hue or saturation, and it's just like one single color in that area. You want to avoid that, and when you're editing a color area like that, always keep in mind that one thing. I'm gonna start working on the grass because that area seems to have the most visual problems for me at the moment, where I just don't know what direction I'm gonna take it in. So let's work on the texture first. I'm gonna read some of the comments in the chat. Daniel is saying, I simply love your videos and classes. Thank you, Daniel. Claire Brown is saying, I keep digital art journal. Everything goes in there. I find it very motivating and also helpful to look back and see progress. I write about the things I'm struggling with as well, which helps me. I think that's a really cool idea, but I have to say that I would struggle with something that work intensive, but it sounds really cool. Somebody's saying, that's so true. I recall using so many different brushes when I started, like everybody. Trust me, everybody does that. But now I only use one brush mainly, another 2 or 3 for the things one can't do. I think there are elements that like do help. Like, for example, when you're painting stars, just having a brush that like creates those dots for you, it saves time. Like, do that instead. Honestly, like there's no benefit to some things like when they are hand done. At the moment, these live streams are my main cue for painting. So whenever I can carve the time out for a live, when it's live, it's like an accountability date in some way. Thank you, Christine. Christine, I will try to do more live streams in different time slots, but for this art assignment block, I will probably be doing more live streams, as these are really good for like short and snappy live streams for painting. But I just hope that you wouldn't have to trust my schedule for that. I hope there's a way that you can, I don't know, like, does it make that big of a difference to you guys if you're watching a live stream when it's live or when it's a video on demand later? I don't know, for me, I've used a lot of live streams when I'm working, like art live streams. I love watching somebody paint at the same time. I feel like I have work company when I do it, but to me, it's not like that important if the live stream is happening currently at that same time when I'm working. Please don't quit the stream after I'm saying this. No. Or if you feel like quitting, like do. I honestly don't want anybody to be like locked to this channel in any way. Like you be in charge of your own time. Especially if my live streams are keeping you from painting, like then definitely you should close this tab immediately. That's the opposite of what I want to do here. I've said often that these live streams are like there's like no financial benefit for me from doing this. I get pretty much zero money from the ads because live streams get so few views. These are just honestly what I like doing, and I like painting with you guys. Like it's that's the reason. There are only so many people who are looking for live streams on painting at any given time, so I don't think there's like a ton of potential for growth either. And I'm fine with that. Like there is already a reason for doing this, and it's that I like doing this. And some people have told me that they also enjoy painting at the same time. So it's not entirely selfish. Somebody else is getting benefit from these as well. I selected the mountain layer and now I'm doing a mask on an empty layer. This way I can... Actually, I selected the wrong thing. I'm deleting that. I'm selecting this snow cap that is set as a clipping mask. And this selection I am setting as a layer mask. Because that way I can have this layer be a clipping mask for the mountain at the same time as the stuff that I'm painting on it is limited by where the snow is here. I love doing scumbling bits like this. The one moment when I can just not think about anything and just enjoy what's already in there. Jack is saying, I'm creative who has been soft-diagnosed with ADHD. I don't know what soft-diagnosed means. Can somebody please elaborate? Jack continues, I find myself moving from one art form to another. I write songs and stories, I make images in Procreate, I go for long walks in the forest. I have as many unfinished projects as I have finished ones. I used to have tons of unfinished pieces, but that had nothing to do with my attention span. It was more about me being afraid of... it was basically like me letting my ego run the show. And that is a battle that everybody is facing, not just me. Everyone's ego is the same in the way that it wants you to just stop. Stop everything that you're doing. Don't show it to anybody. Like, just stop. That's basically like the end results of what your ego is telling you. Like, it's always so predictable and it leads into nothing interesting. Because when you're finishing a piece, like, on some level, you have to agree to letting go of it when it's unfinished. You have to be more committed to finishing it than making it perfect. And that's also a huge act of selflessness, that you have to value this work, like this creative idea that came to you. You have to value it more than what other people think of you. Because if you value what other people think of you more, then you will always be like, that's what perfectionists do. They try to create this image that like they are people who always do outstanding work at all times. But it's just fear, because it's just about themselves. It's just selfishness. Like, for example, this painting. I'm sure that every element imaginable that I have already done here could be done better with more time. And I know that on some level, a part of me is saying that, like, if I just did it the hard way and spent more time on it, maybe you would respect me more for doing it that way. And the ego part of me, of course, wants that. It wants that kind of attention. The ego part of me doesn't want just a good painting. The ego part wants to do a painting that is better than somebody else would make. That's the ugly truth. But I can't let it win, because then nothing gets done, honestly. If my goal is to make better art or like more technically impressive art than somebody else, like, so many ideas like just get completely left undone, because all of that time will go into just like nursing my ego and like trying to make it seem, trying to keep up this impression that I'm somehow a better painter than I am, and just sacrificing all those other ideas to getting the few done in a more finished, polished way, or whatever. I'm struggling with finding the right words for this, because I'm not trying to say that like that way of making art ends up with better art. I think here, if I focus on finishing this piece, it means that I need to finish it in a certain time frame that makes sense for me working as my own business owner and as a solo artist who is responsible for getting food to the table and more kibbles for my dog. If I finish the painting within a reasonable time frame for that, I know that this will be a better painting because of that, because I will have focused on the essence of this. And if you want to see this place, you can literally go to this location that I am now posting in the chat. You can just have this. You can just have this thing that I just now posted on chat. And that's the image. Like, that's way more detail than I will have time for, even if I was a perfectionist. But when I focus on the essence and what I get from this environment, I am adding something by omitting detail and focusing on the things that matter to me. Therefore, the end result is a better painting than it would be if I gave it endless amount of time. Tanya is saying, I finished the painting today. I began in February, but other projects kept interrupting it. I painted the entire thing with the mesh brush. Love the one brush challenge, but wow, it was intense. Yeah. I think mesh brush is great for that. But I think mesh brush was always intended to fight that kind of perfection, because you can't control it. Like, there are marks that mesh brush will do to your painting that you will have to just live with. Like, okay, that happened. Does that impact the painting so much that I need to go and get involved? The answer to that question should be no. Like, the bigger picture should be more important than those funny little quirks that mesh brush produces to a painting. If using like one brush or one brush method or a high character brush for one painting is not enough, I also recommend just good old-fashioned time limits. Like I now have 3 hours to do this painting, and that's the only time that I will be able to commit to this one painting, and then I will have to move on with my life to other things. If you have seen that step-by-step tutorial that I just posted a few days ago, right before the marathon, like you can probably already recognize that I'm using a lot of the same techniques in this landscape. So even though that tutorial is for like showing every step in doing that one single landscape, every phase of it, those techniques are applicable to all kinds of landscapes, like with even like few similar elements. Jack is saying, I have an overwhelming tendency to move from one creative modality to another, and it means I end up with too many unfinished projects. It can be very frustrating. Cheers from a Finn in Australia. I wish that I could visit Australia one day. I probably said this already 1,000 times, but my other partner is from Australia. Sorry if I look weird, I'm like basically squinting when I'm looking at my painting now. Because that way I can see like more of the whole what I'm doing and not just individual details. I know that I have like few, like only like a couple of people that follow me online that are from Finland. I wonder how they feel about the fact that like my channel language is English. Everybody probably understands that if I had a channel where the main focus is painting and a lot of my painting is digital painting, that would be way too specific for a channel to survive with Finnish language. Because if you think about other popular channels that you see online, you might have many channels in your list that have like million subscribers or so on, but that would be like 1/5 of the population of Finland, and that includes like super old people in a retirement home and kids, like basically infants who can't even speak any language yet. So out of those people, how much would be the maximum viable market for that kind of a Finnish channel? Like, it just wouldn't make sense. Obviously, it would be easier for me to write scripts in Finnish. But all the art teaching that I have done, it's almost always in English. This year was the first time ever when I did the concept art course when the main language was Finnish, because all of the students happened to be Finnish. But on every single previous year, whenever I talk about like me teaching concept art in Finland, that is always in English. Because even if there's like one English-speaking student in the class, the entire course is going to be in English so that everybody can follow along. That's it. And all the presentations that the students do, they're also in English. Even if they are Finnish students. Now that foreground makes a little bit more sense, at least to me. Scumbling this mountainside in case you can't see the small detail. I'm zooming in for that reason. And then I'm using the same brush as an eraser, and this just adds a little bit more crunchy texture. And none of these movements are that well considered. I'm just thinking about the three-dimensional volume of this mountain and trying to highlight that. And as I have all this texture now, I'm just gonna use it on this other mountain side as well, because if I have done all this work, might as well put it to some good use. Adding a little bit of hue variety to these cracks in this wall of stone. Making sure that that base layer isn't selected when I'm applying this blur. And that creates that gradient. this gradient adds an illusion of depth when it makes the contrast seem starker, closer to the camera, and it eats away some of that contrast on the top half of the mountain. You're always welcome to visit. I live in Victoria's Wombat Forest. Victoria's Wombat Forest sounds like one of my paintings. Or it sounds like it should be in my painting. It gives my Finnish soul such joy to live in the middle of a forest. It's hard to imagine what an Australian forest is. Like what it even looks like. Isn't that Finnish Formula driver also? Isn't he also living permanently in Australia? Or was that North Africa? Am I mixing those two? I know nothing about Formula One. So. Maybe I shouldn't speculate. Like, it just makes me sound like an idiot. I think this might be a golf course in the location that I saw on MapCrunch, which is kind of gross. But that's one aspect of this location that I'm not trying to emphasize. I think it's just a beautiful part of the world in, I think, Argentina, where this location was. Let's just focus on that. Not rich people ruining nature. looking at the illustration on the tiny screen that I see in the live stream, I think the mood is kind of starting to appear already in there. I'm gonna try to find those clouds on the very bottom layer here. First of all, I'm gonna put them on a clipping mask to this layer, and then also for these other clouds, I'm putting them as a clipping mask for them as well. Extending the area of influence. Same here. Just striking that light through these clouds that are closest to the sun. I really want people to do this art challenge in a way that they're not too fussy with their art. So I'm trying my best to not overwork this. Hey, baby. My boss is checking in on me. I like that the colors are kind of soft and they make sense. I didn't stick to this palette in any way, but it was a good starting point. alien space cat has a corgi boss as well. They're very demanding. Sometimes when I'm petting my dog, she can be just like demanding for more attention from my boyfriend. Like even though I'm actively petting her at the time, she can be like, no, this is not enough. Like I need more staff, more attention. You can do better. I think that a highlight on the water is so bright that it's not giving me any space for actual highlights. So I'm just gonna deliberately darken it quite a lot and try to see if I can make this work. A kind of more graphic way. There's a weird round shape here. Is that actually part of the tree? No, it's just the shape that is behind it. Weird though, here. Have you noticed, by the way, how so often in these Google Street View maps, the colors are almost always the same kind of super flat profile? I think it might have something to do with like on certain days it's just easier to have uninterrupted access to the roads and you can drive and then it's not the most beautiful scenic route ever. And then you end up with a lot of this like super flat colors on the roads. I think I have now the essence of like what I feel from this place, but at the same time, I think emotionally it's also conveying what I see when I look at this specific landscape. I think this is a good example of like I'm using reference all the time, but when you look at the reference and you look at my painting, I hope that it's pretty clear that like there's a reason for this painting to exist. That you couldn't replace my painting with just that photo. Just a cheap way to add more texture to those kind of tiny gaps. I never get tired of adding mist to my landscapes. At one point I felt kind of ashamed that like, should this be something that I'm doing always in my paintings? I was like, yeah, the people who don't like doing mist in their paintings, like, they can provide the other type of art. I can be as foggy with my art as I want, because there is no imaginary quota of clear skies that I need to fill. I think we're pretty much done here. So if you want to see that original location, I'm gonna post it into the chat one more time. Not that you need to compare this place to that in any way, but that's the place, and this is my painting of it. And in these digital plein air sessions, we're gonna travel all around the world. I just noticed that there is this feature, if you open the tools, you can set different specifications on like what kind of places mapcrunch.com can raffle you. And if you're part of the channel membership, please post your art on Art and Assignments channel on our Discord, and I will be doing lots of technique breakdowns and live lessons on this topic on the membership side, but I will also be doing plenty of like just spontaneous live stream starts now sessions. I still don't have a schedule, but there will be a schedule for all the membership live streams. But for these public ones, I will just try to do as much of these as I can, basically, because I've been working on that previous video that I just posted, the tutorial for the landscape, that is over 2 hours long forever. So now I really just want to paint and use those skills myself. Not that I hate painting, I'm very proud of the tutorial, and I want to also put it on Gumroad for people who don't want to be part of these memberships. But I also just want to paint, so I'm gonna be doing lots of live streams like this, where I'm just picking a random location on the planet and painting that. Okay, thank you for joining this live stream, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Hopefully you got something painted, and if you didn't, let this be your cue, Claire Brown and Danielle. Also, thank you. Expect for the floating tree in the foreground. You can do foreground without floating trees. Thank you, Tanya. Okay, what was I saying? Yeah, so I will be seeing you guys in the next video, but if you still didn't start your own painting, like, let this be your cue to start now. Like, make some art today, like, even if it's something like very small and silly. Set yourself a time limit, and then just claim the time limit if it doesn't work out, and then do that over and over, and eventually you will just get lucky. That's just how art works, and you will get better at doing art in the process. Okay, thank you, Christine. I'll see you guys later.